Hey, Plus participants, we're going to do another investigation from the budding botanist. And this one is called Cones and Needles. And it's all about, the group of non-flowering plants. Particularly, it's all about the conifers, the cone-producing plants. So, students, we've already talked about flowering plants before. You would have already had lessons about that. So this is about the non-flowering plants, the ones that produce cones. So, and the cones and needles is broken up in two different sections. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to talk about, and they're going to observe cones. And so what I've done to make management of this activity easy from year to year is several years ago, I went out behind my house and in my neighborhood, and I just found different types of cones. Now, most of them are pine cones. Some of them are like from fir trees. Some of them are from spruce, I think. But I collect them, I put them in a bag, and I put them in my storage closet. And then I label it cones, and I bring them out year to year. So you don't have to get new cones every year. These cones will store really well. So here's some examples of some cones I have. I let the students see. And then, of course, I still have this one on a branch. Okay, and you want to be able to take those off for the kids. So you can get enough to where the kids can have their own. They can share the cones, but they're very easy to find on the ground, and so they can have their own. So so what they want to do first is they want to get their cone, and they want to draw it the best way they can, obviously using colored pencils. And then they're going to write down, they're going to make some observations, some qualitative observations. Now, qualitative, remember, is a quality. It's color, it's texture, it's shape. And they want to write some words down that describe the qualities of these cones. And so, if you can, a good thing, and I'm going to show you, this is a great time of year to get, I found these in my backyard. And this is a cone that is still green and it's closed up. Well, inside of there are the little seeds. And what that will do once it starts to dry out is the seeds will drop, and they'll drop to the ground. So the cone is like flowers are an adaptation for a plant. Well, cones are also an adaptation because they protect the seeds that are inside of it. So once the students have made the observations for the cones, okay, they do something called count the scales. And the scales are these things right here. So if I could break one off of this one, this is a scale. And you have to really talk to the kids about what scales are. And then they look at you and they say, oh, there's too many. And then we talk about estimating. So just estimate the number of scales that are on this pine cone. Okay? Then they're going to use your rulers, and you're all getting a class set of rulers. And of course, we use centimeters, and they're going to measure the length, and they're going to do something called their circumference. Now, some kids, it depends on the time of year that you teach this to. They already know the word circumference, but you want to talk to them about circumference, the distance around an object. So usually I'll have a ball or something, and you also get a class set of measuring tapes. And you want to talk to the kids, again, this is the customary side, this is the metric side, and they are going to measure their circumference. And when you measure the circumference, you want to measure the widest, well, actually, I tell them, you want to measure the middle. We'll just do the middle of the cone, okay? Measure all the way around it in centimeters, okay? Another thing that they're going to do is they are going to mass. Okay, they're going to get the mass of the cone. So what you, as a teacher, you will be in charge of your electronic scale, and yes, you will be getting one. So this is mine. Yours is a little different, but this is mine. And what you'll do is they will come up one at a time. Usually I call one table at a time, and they come up and they put their cone in the middle of it, and I tell them what the mass is. Okay, again, in grams. Okay, use the metric system. Okay. So after you've taken the cones up, okay, the next thing I'm going to do is part 2 of it is called branches and needles. So you go out, of course, and you've got your branches of some conifers, okay? Now you don't want to give them this whole branch. What I do is I take a little, do like that. So that's probably big enough. And they're going to obviously, they're going to make some qualitative and quantitative observations of these branches. And I tell the kids, when you measure it, you want to measure from the end here to the very tip there in centimeters again, okay? When you do qualitative observations, all right, and you, of course, you want to do color, texture, shape, smell. Now, you could do this with the pine cones as well, but I tell the kids, take off some of the needles and kind of rub them between your fingers and see if you get that smell. And of course, we talk to the kids about when you're making observations about smell, we don't say something smells good or something smells bad, because those are two what we call subjective words, because something that smells good to me might not smell good to you. So we talk about using words like strong smell, musty smell, sour smell, sweet smell. So we want to use words like that when we're describing smells. Okay? Again, they're going to measure the branch. I talked about that. And they're going to measure the needle length. So they'll just take one of the little needles off and they want to measure that. Okay? Again, good practice measuring in centimeters and millimeters. Okay? Okay, so this lesson is called Cones and Needles, and it's in the Budding Botanist.